So what are we doing?
Sounding. We're gonna pull this panel.
Yep.
Because the box it's really tight. We're gonna pull it out, sounding in the inside of this panel. Yeah, it wanna work really good.
tell you, if you're gonna do this behind the seat like this, make sure, it's not even a question, make sure you put grills on the speakers. Otherwise, you're on your own. You're gonna have holes in them. So grills on the speakers, it's a total must. So these are the two amplifiers we're gonna do. Now, the funny thing is right here where it says actual size. So the box's logo is the actual size of the amplifier on this particular one. and that's the amplifier there. Each one of them comes with a burst certificate. So this is the 750.1. This one at 1 ohm, 1% THD is putting out 967 watts. Now it comes with the cool startup disc, and the reason why it comes with this is because this essentially has a DD1 built into it. We have the instructions on how to actually use it, which we'll talk about later. And then it comes with our input plug right here. So on the bottom of the amplifier, it talks about this harness here. It has high level or low level. So if you want to use it as low level, you can simply just cut off the RCAs and then use the standard gray white combination. So it has white, white, black, gray, gray, black. Use it as a high level input. It has an input for the remote subwoofer volume control. It does not come with one. Power and speaker terminals unplug and come right out. On the top of the amplifier, you have the input level control. You have your clip light indicators, input output. You have your, of course, punch EQ, and then the crossover frequency, and then a infrasonic filter. That's basically a subsonic filter. That's a high pass crossover for the amplifier. All right, let's take a look at the 4-channel amp. Now the burst certificate for this says a total power of 553 watts at 2 ohm. We're not going to be running it at 2 ohm, so we know we're going to get considerably less than that. Let's check this actual size thing. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. It's actually maybe no, I'd say actual size. Cool. So this one actually comes with the RCA adapters for line level, front and rear. On the front, it has basically the same settings. You have your input, you have your clip in, clip out lights, and you have a clip out light for channels 3 and 4. You have your punch EQ. You have a 2-channel, 4-channel mode selector. You have variable frequencies between 50 and 250, and also high pass or low pass with the power light down here in the corner. So these plug in here as your outputs, and then it has the same power plug as sub amp. Now also on the back, it has what the lights do. So if you have any troubleshooting, so while this amp is screwed down, if the lights aren't doing what they're supposed to, you can unscrew the amplifier, flip it over, and check it here. Because it's not anywhere on this. So we got these two guys that are gonna sit like this. My guess is we're probably gonna run just one 4-gauge to it with a distribution block. So we're gonna have to hide these underneath the seat and also these underneath the seat. So to make all this fit, we're gonna go ahead and use this Stinger distribution block here. This one's kind of nice because it's just 2 wires. It'll take a 4-gauge input, it has 2 8-gauge outputs. It also has a 0 to 2 4-gauge if you need be, but we just need it for the 8-gauge, and it's nice and tiny. Then we're going to have some Stinger 8-gauge power wire, and we have a Stinger 4-gauge power kit. Now as far as the RCAs, we don't know. I'm thinking we might just need some 9-footers. I don't think it needs to be any longer than that because like we said, all this is going underneath the passenger seat. So now what we need to do is go ahead and head over to the car, get the passenger front seat up so that we can get to that amplifier, figure out what kind of panel we're going to make to mount this stuff, and get to wiring it up. Alright. We got a couple air fresheners here, packet of ketchup, and I don't know what that is. Alright, so this guy right here is the factory amplifier. We want to go ahead and get the cover off of it. Now we'll go ahead and set this over on the workbench because this is what we'll use to make our template so that we can fit all our stuff underneath here, so we know where our screw points are. So we've actually done this car before. We've shown it here on the channel. So we have a nice set of notes as far as what everything is here. We do need to go grab a couple of wiring harnesses though so that we can plug into this. So we need a BHA 1761 and we need a BHA 7992. We're gonna run next door and grab those. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the 1761. For that, just go ahead and pull all the pins out. Now keep in mind, you don't have to do this. This is just more of a personal preference. I want the colors to match. There's wires in the holes. All right, so in the 1761, the only wires that it's using are the speaker wires. We have positive on top for 2, so that's gonna be our grays. Then right next to that will be 1, which is the driver's front door. For those of you that aren't familiar with how we break it up, is the driver's front door is 1, passenger front door is 2, 3, and then 4. And then that'll go white, gray, green, purple. All right, so the 1761 harness is all set. Let's move on to the 7992. We're gonna repeat the same process and remove all the wiring. First up on the list is going to be the 1 tweeter. Negatives are on the bottom. So go ahead and clip that in. Then it goes 2. And then on the other side, it's going to start with 3, negative on the bottom. And next to that is 4. And for those of you that are going to retain the rear tweeters, the next 2 openings on the harness are going to be negative, positive for 4. And then the next to the gray is going to be the rear tweeter. They're again negative on the bottom, positive on the top. We're not retaining the tweeters in the rear door because they're up way too high and too close to the driver's ear. All right, so we have our 2 harnesses all set and ready to go. Now what we're gonna do is go over in the car. We're gonna tone these to make sure that they're the right speakers and make sure that my notes were correct for this car. So let's head over to the car. All right, so the 1761 plug first should be passenger, driver, driver's tweeter. Now the one thing you need to do when you're doing an install like this is there's a center channel in this car, and how it works is it takes a signal from the driver's tweeter and the passenger tweeter and sums them into one speaker. You have to disconnect that speaker. It has to come out of the equation, otherwise your amp's going to do strange things, and if you're just hooking up a radio, it'll really do bad things. If you want to run a center channel, run your own wire up to the center channel. There are no wires here for it. All right, so that was part of the hard part there of getting that. So now what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and remove this floorboard here. There's this nice factory ground right here, but the way it is in, it's wrapped around the seat wires. So we want to go ahead and move that. Now we can use this ground point also for our amplifiers. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to go grab our equipment and we're going to see what kind of mount we need to make to fit all this stuff. So originally I wanted to use these factory bolts to hold everything in place here. Looking at the way I want to build this, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm actually going to use these rear seat bolts to hold everything in place. I'm just going to build a board that comes from here to here with a U here. And then we can mount the crossovers here. We can reroute these over to this area here. I might put some spacers on the amps to lift them up a little bit so the RCAs can go underneath as opposed to wrapping them around. Or I might lift up the crossovers, this one in particular, if I lifted this one up. Either way, the basic shape of what I need is pretty much laid out. Let's get a tape measure and then we'll go cut some plastic. Alright, so we have a basic shape and design. Let's go cut this thing up. Drill 2 holes here for the seat cleats to go through, as well as round up some of these corners, and then we'll round the whole thing off. Alright, so the reason why we're drilling these holes so big is because there's washers underneath the seat that actually hold it up, and I want them to go through this. Alright, let's router these corners off. Alright, you guys like to ask, by the way, this is 1/4 inch ABS. So it's a little bit harder to work with than the Sentra, but it's real rigid, works good underneath the seats. Let's take it in and do all our test fitting. Fits the way we want it. We are going to make one modification. We're going to add a leg here to screw into this bolt so that it doesn't flop around like this. Other than that, we're good. We can take this over to the bench and we can start to get these things wired up. We don't need to lengthen these. These are all going to fit where they need to go. Let's just head over to the bench. So we are going to put some spacers up underneath the amplifiers to raise them up off this floor like this, so that we have room to run the RCAs up underneath the amplifier so that they don't hang out around the back here. So I've gone ahead and cut some 1/2 inch pieces. So we have our basic layout. This is how it's gonna go. Let's go ahead and hit this with the time lapse as we wire this whole bad boy up.